Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Neighbor kept reporting me to the HOA for petty things. Opportunity knocked to pay her back and I took it. I found out today that my revenge was complete, so I came here to share it. My neighbor, who we shall call Christy, would report us to our HOA for literally everything she didn't like. Trash can still on the street at 5 p.m. on trash day, reported. Kids bike outside while kids are still playing, reported. Didn't mow this weekend. Typically I do this Monday nights, reported Monday morning. Dog barking at 2 in the afternoon as she and her dog walk on the path behind our house, reported. In many cases these were not issues covered by the HOA, but due to repeated reporting the board did fine us and I had to go spend the evening waiting through a 2-hour meeting to have them removed. This kept happening and was driving me nuts. Both my wife and I spoke to her and tried to find out why she felt this was okay, and she told us, "You just need to do a better job being a good neighbor." Fast forward to early this summer. She posts on a neighborhood website sharing a video about the anti-vax movement. In general the replies are petty aggressive about telling her she is full of it, but she keeps pushing back, leading to a super long post about how we all are wrong and we should listen because she is a doctor. She signs it, Dr. Christy, last name, naturopathic physician. At this point I am mostly just wondering what the heck any KND of doctor would be against vaccines. This made no sense to me, so I started digging. I did find that Christy was listed as a doctor on sites where you could find physicians. I dug more into what exactly a naturopathic physician was and found that in my state of Colorado they are regulated and required to maintain a license to practice. I checked into it and found out the following. 1. Christy was not in the state database as a naturopathic physician. 2. The board who regulates it has an online reporting tool. At this point I took all the information I had, grabbed screenshots and checked my timeline and reported her as claiming to be a naturopathic physician when she was not. I then followed that up with this post on the neighborhood website. This is a hot button topic for me, and because of that and Christy signing her post as Dr. last name, I had to dig some. I for one am a huge fan of including whole person treatment. I think doctors of osteopathic medicine are wonderful as they work to integrate whole health into the picture with well-researched medical best practices. Naturopathy less so, which is the problem here. One researched article breaks down a lot of the issues quite well. It is almost 13 years old, but still quite good at explaining the valid concerns. I further checked as Colorado does regulate naturopathy and I could not find any Christy last name listed there. My thought was that it is entirely possible that she holds a license to practice in Colorado and my search wasn't working. But even just searching her first name or zip code or my town, or town near us, provides no results for a Christy last name. There are 2 naturopathic doctors in town near us. At this point Christy locked the post and later deleted the entire thing. I was pretty dang happy that she removed the post, but today it got better. In the mail I received a copy of the cease and desist letter that Christy received from the state about a month ago. It told her that she must cease and desist her practice immediately. Next one is titled, How I Helped Push My Friend to Ruin the Life of His Cheating Wife. This happened to my best friend. His wife was Japanese and living in America with him on a spousal visa. Long story short, she was banging some guy who was always an a-hole to us. We know why now. She made the mistake of telling her best friend who lives in Japan, whom is also my good friend. I live in Japan. The friend was recently cheated on and still very upset. She told me, my best friend was in the middle of finals. Went back to school after getting laid off to get a more specialized degree. I sat on this information for 2 weeks and then told him. He took it pretty well as it filled in a lot of holes for him. Then I said so many guys when hurt are too nice. I convinced him to ruin this witch. We figured out her Facebook password. Why do most women pick the most obvious of passwords? Sure enough, there were conversations, and what's this? The boyfriend's parents. Glorious. It turns out they are super Christian. My friend contacted the boyfriend's mother and very politely explained who he was and what went on. She was very sorry and she promised my friend that his wife would no longer be welcome in their home. Step 1 complete. Step 2 was going to take more skill. My friend's wife was pretty butthurt about him ruining her relationship. She said she will just tell her parents that my friend beat her. They don't speak English, so there was nothing my friend could do. I told my friend to write the letter, which he did, and again explained it very politely. For my advice, my friend also included the dated photos of them together. My mutual Japanese friend translated the letter into natural Japanese. My friend's wife had no idea of his plan. She was also planning to go home for a month to visit. My friend timed the mailing of the letter so it arrived one day before she left. She received a phone call from her father and he totally sided with my friend. His wife called up crying and called him an a-hole. Now if you think this burn couldn't get any better, you are wrong. His wife was looking for her dream job at an industrial design company. She had an interview lined up for when she got back. They were ready to hire her, but when talk about her visa status came up, she explained that she will be getting divorced and will lose her status. The company explained that they couldn't hire her because they don't have it in the budget to sponsor a visa. Bam! Mission complete. She's now back in Japan. I guess she works at a Japanese company now, but that isn't her dream. Next one is titled, The Deadbeat Uncle Tripped. My former Uncle Bob was a deadbeat. Why my aunt married him is a mystery. He was an alcoholic and a pervert to the extreme. He couldn't hold down a job, and was a terrible father. Not only that, he was always in the trouble with the law for some reason. Well, this happened quite some time ago, think 20 years back, in a small town in the middle of nowhere where the sheriff also had the same high regard for Bob. Well, Bob was renowned for peeping into bathroom windows for a bit of Voyager action. However, one night he decided he'd peep in on my cousin taking a shower. Not only was this perverted, wrong, and illegal, it was within the family. Unfortunately for Bob, my other uncle Tom was walking home when he spotted Bob grazing through the bathroom window, and he could hear the shower running, so he knew Bob was peeping his daughter. Well, unfortunately for Bob, Tom is quite a large man, he works construction. For every ounce of strength Tom has, Bob lacks. Tom grabbed Bob and for the next several minutes pummels him into submission, punches to the face, gut, throwing around, just a general quality beatdown. Of course, this all speculation, as the police report was quite different. The aftermath was not pretty: broken nose, cracked eye socket, broken ribs, and plenty of blood over both men. Of course, the sheriff, who is well acquainted with Bob, is called in. The sheriff arrives a few minutes later and sees Bob on the sidewalk, obviously in pain, and he sees Tom. It's obvious there was a fight. So the sheriff walks up to Tom and says, "What happened here?" Tom starts to go off and the sheriff stops and says, "Now Tom, it appears to me as if Bob came over and tripped. Is that what happened?" To which Tom responded, "Indeed it was." The sheriff turned around, looked at Bob and said, "Bob, it appears as if you tripped and fell, and I'm going to take you to the hospital." Bob learned his lesson, recovered, was divorced, and we haven't seen him since. After the divorce, he limped around for a while after that. Next one is titled, Kid Assaults Himself to Get His Boss Fired. Alright, this was told to me by a friend. He is the pilot of the story. This happened on a towboat. A towboat holds about 5 to 7 people. The captain is the highest and his word is pretty much law on a vessel, then the relief captain, then pilot, then engineer, tankerman, then deckhand. The captain, who we will call Cap, was a colossal dick. He constantly tormented the deck crew. He lost over 50 deckhands in 1 year. Deckhands would literally just leave the boat whenever the boat would dock for fuel or for barge transfers. The captain was giving a stern talking to, but considering that captains are like gold, it would take an extreme amount to get them fired. Enter Ryu. Ryu was an innocent-faced, 18-year-old kid. He was very eager to learn and tried to take the initiative to do as much as he could. He had a great attitude and my friend could easily see him advancing soon. Cap on the other hand had a permanent stick shoved up his butt and hated Ryu. He would constantly make homophobic slurs against Ryu, frequently implying that he wouldn't even let Ryu perform certain sexual favors no matter how much Ryu begged. Ryu at first took it well. He just figured it was new guy hazing, but even the other more experienced deckhands thought this was extreme. Not because of what was being said but because of the malice behind it. Cap also gave Ryu extremely ridiculous jobs like telling him to go out with a toothbrush and scrub the barge. It's around 110 degrees in August and he is having this kid on his hands and knees on a heater barge that has heaters that heat the sludge, oil so it doesn't solidify inside the barge. So the barge is easily 300 degrees. My friend did what he could to help the guy because he didn't want him to quit. He was telling him that he only had to make it 3 more weeks, then he could request a transfer to another boat and he would make sure he got it. Ryu had other plans. So to make sure you guys understand what happened, watches are 6 hours long. Captain was on front watch, so he worked 6 to 12, both times. The pilot worked back watch which was 12 to 6. The wheelhouse is usually the highest point of the boat. This boat had 4 decks. Wheelhouse on the top, then the pilot's rooms on the 3rd deck, then the 2nd deck which housed the crew, then the bottom deck which was the galley, engine room, generator room, and rudder room. Stairs separate each of the decks. So, Cap just relieved my pilot friend and he was heading downstairs to his room to get some stuff then go eat breakfast. Ryu was heading up to the wheelhouse, as the captain usually calls him up there first thing in the morning to give him his scrap list. As my friend was coming out of his room he heard Ryu screaming along the lines of, "No, get your hands off me, stop. OWW. Why are you doing this?" Then the pilot hears a large thud. He ran to the staircase and saw Ryu laying at the bottom in a crumpled heap and Cap up at the top screaming stuff at Ryu. My friend thought the captain finally snapped and tried to kill a deckhand. He did insinuate that he would do it often enough. So the office is contacted. They had to get Ryu off the boat and to the hospital. I believe he ended up having a couple broken ribs, a broken wrist, and I believe a concussion. The local authorities are called and Cap is arrested after they took everyone's story. Ryu claimed that Cap pushed him down the stairs. Cap lost his job, his license. I think he was put on parole. My friend said he never talked to him again and only heard about what happened through other towboaters. Ryu on the other hand healed nicely and even continued towboating. Fast forward 5 to 6 years and Ryu is now an experienced engineer when my friend is riding over to make some extra cash and is put on the same boat as Ryu. Before my friend got off the boat, Ryu confessed to him that Ryu did it to himself because he couldn't take it anymore. My friend had a lot of self-conflicting issues with this story as to whether or not to tell the office the truth, but so far, he still hasn't. It's been about 10 years since this has happened. Next one is titled, "Don't Try to Get in My Business." I work in a call center. We manage specific customers, so it's not like a tech support situation with a seemingly never-ending queue. There's a lot of time spent on the job without phone calls. There's a guy at work that I've been in a friends with benefits type relationship for a while now. Roughly 6 months. Neither of us want a full-on relationship, but we've agreed to be exclusive in terms of a sexual relationship until one of us wants to move on. Everyone knows we're a thing and pretty much think we're a couple. Now I like him, I really do. We have amazing sexual chemistry and he's easily the best sex I've had to date, and also 10 years younger. However, I can easily say I would not want to be in a long-term relationship or cohabitating with him. However, I also don't want our agreement to end at any point soon. At work they hired a new cleaner girl and I noticed she's been chatting with him at his cubicle for a while. The other day I was there chatting with him when she stopped by to flirt. He really wasn't paying her a lot of mind and even complimented my appearance that day while she was there, but still, back off, witch. I am petty. I am vindictive. On my last break I sent an anonymous email to the facilities department asking if the cleaners should be distracting phone agents from their work. I pointed out that it was disruptive to those around the area. I do not sit close to him, and it prevented agents from doing their job, and the cleaner was obviously not doing hers. I suggested that perhaps if she wanted to flirt and pick up men, she should do it on her own time. The next day she got written up and is no longer allowed to stop and chat with agents. Suck it, witch. Next one is titled, He Said She Said, turned into class action. I worked for a small lottery parlor chain for the better part of a year back around 2008. It was a single employee operation, so I worked a 10-hour shift with no breaks or a lunch. All in all, it wasn't a bad job and had good tips. One day, out of the blue, the region manager calls me into the store and tells me that I'm suspended. No warning whatsoever. I asked her why, and she flat out tells me that I'm frightening away the patrons because of my preference, identity, I'm gay. The next day, she calls me to say that I'm no longer needed. I tried for a lawsuit, but it was he said she said kinda thing. Flash forward to last month. I get a call from a lawyer asking me if I want to take part in a class action lawsuit against this company for discrimination and unfair wage compensation practices. I told them my story and now I'm a class representative for the case. I'm so ready for this court case. Last one is titled, I published a poem about my ex in a literary magazine he'd been trying to get into for years. We were both in high school, and at the end of the relationship he told me he was just in it for the sex, that he didn't really mean any of it, and that I obviously just wanted him because I was horny. He then went and had a hot and heavy makeout sess with my best friend and came back and told me I was a bad kisser compared to her. Yeah, he was a jerk. Well, flashback to a few months previous. I was angry at him because he was being really hot and cold, and so I wrote an angry poem about him. The magazine he had been trying to get into had a website and would publish poems based off of popularity on the website. He had gotten me to join a few months previous and I only had a few poems up. I decided against posting it then because it would be too mean. Well, after he had pulled that crap I decided I wanted a little revenge. So I posted the poem. And suddenly it was getting a lot of popularity. And I get a notification from the magazine saying they want to publish it. So what was the first thing I did? Messaged him that I got published in this magazine. He got excited for me and congratulated me, until he read the poem. Several million people have read the poem in the magazine, and to this day, he still hasn't gotten published. Thanks for listening.